And audio test. Good morning or afternoon. We have quite a few people that are making connections as we speak, so we'll be getting started in just a moment. Well, good morning or good afternoon. It's so nice to have everybody be able to connect today. We had quite a few register, which was great. A few people had uh, some problem getting on with the Zoom. We're trying to Zoom webinars today, a little different than some prior connections that we've done. So we also are going to broadcast it via YouTube Live. And so I sent that link out in an email. If you know anybody who's having a problem, feel free to forward that email and they can click on the YouTube Live link and get connected as well. And in a minute here, I'm also going to record the session, and we'll make that available thereafter as well. Keep in mind, you can submit questions. We're not watching the questions via the YouTube page, but we are watching the questions via the Zoom. So feel free to submit any questions as we go about our chat, and we'll see if we can get to those questions throughout the webinar. Well, again, welcome to our work from home training. Really, it's designed. We have a lot of clientele that are working from home, and there's been a big shift. We've done several training sessions for clients about working from home, the suggestions, techniques to increase productivity, security concerns, way to mitigate security. It's hard to believe it's been about 2 months since the massive shift has taken place, and yet there's still a need to get this ebb and flow of working from home and address some security concerns. There was kind of a shift all of a sudden. How quickly can we get people working from home through this pandemic? And now that there is a somewhat of an ebb and flow, we're hearing from several of our clients. Now it's okay, how can we make sure that we're doing this the right way if we're not already? So today we're going to cover some of those security tips, some suggestions for you. And whether we're going to reopen very soon or not, we don't know. We know in this area, Mayor Lee Brand, he mentioned that some businesses will start opening on Monday. Some people talk about a second wave, but pandemic or not, work from home has always been a high level security concern within all environments. And regardless of how this situation, this pandemic turns out, the need for working from home likely will greatly increase after this even is all done. So this webinar, this chat here is really targeted toward our existing clients. I've only invited existing clients to join today. This is not made public. The emails only went out to the clients that we actively have, and hence also why the registration was required. So this is really focusing on clients that we manage, and not really just any environment. We did a segment with Fox 26 News last week that was targeted toward more broadly work from home, maybe your spouse or other people that you know, techniques, things they can consider more of in a general sense. So let's get right into it. We're talking about, I'm not a big slide guy, but I got a few images that'll help our conversation. So why work from home security? What's the big deal? I'm just as secure as I was before, right? Well, it's very similar to the need for security in a normal network environment. Cyber criminals, they don't care that we're going through a pandemic. They have no emotional concern whatsoever that we're going through these difficult times. And some people might feel, well, is there a shift in cybercrime? There is, because this work from home has been really a hacker's dream. And when we talk about a hacker, well, I'm going to debunk a couple of myths that could be out there. Some people feel that they're too small to get attacked. And it's true that there are some very large organized cyber criminal rings out there, state-sponsored attacks, cyber warfare, very elaborate hoax using exploits, phishing scams to steal money, steal credentials. But a lot of hackers are basement techies willing to lower their morals to steal your money. And it is increasing at alarming rates. You can go on right now and get a do-it-yourself hacker kit for like $50. And what's really dangerous about these is they're not built very well. And so not only do they steal your money, they're very damaging. And most of these are trying to get ransomware on your computer to encrypt it and to then ask for money in exchange for releasing your computer or your files. A lot of the ransomware has gotten incredibly sophisticated, where now it can hop across workstations, either in your home or at your work, hop through channels through your remote connection. See, when you work from home, it's like you create a back door into your network, and we're going to address some of those challenges and how we can mitigate them. Another thing that the cyber criminals are looking for is your credentials. They want your credentials. They want your username and your password to your computer, your bank account, your financial sites. That is a very lucrative way to steal and to make profit from cybercrime. So those are the two primary ways. Now we think, okay, what's the big deal? You know, this whole thing about credentials, I hear this all the time. It's just a password. Well, I'll grab my keys here. And you might have heard me explain this before, but our credentials, our username and our password, it's like our keys. If you had the keys to my home and my alarm code, you could go into my home anytime you wanted. You could search through what's there and I wouldn't know it. You could plan out exactly how you wanted to steal whatever you wanted to, and I wouldn't know it. And so often nowadays, hackers are stealing your credentials. They may not directly attack you at that moment, but they're watching. They're watching for an opportune time. As an example, we had a client where they were corresponding with a vendor. Actually, they were corresponding with a customer. The customer's email had been compromised. So an attacker was watching the customer's emails as they were going through. And the customer needed to pay a wire transfer, okay? So they sent over wire transfer instructions. Well, that's when the attacker, they jumped into action. They impersonated our client and said, oh, actually, those aren't the wire transfer instructions. Here's a correction. Let me give you these. Now, our client had no idea this had taken place at the beginning because their customer got an email and then it looked like it came from our client. So they swooped in to try to get them to wire that money. In that case, it was $30,000 to an incorrect bank account. Now, fortunately, that customer was savvy enough to say, "Hey, what are you talking about?" They responded. They had a dialogue, and then it quickly went to the IT department. And we realized, well, no, this is absolutely not approved. It's not correct, and it was stopped. But you can see how quickly those kinds of things can happen when they have your credentials, your username, and your password. We're going to talk a lot about that, especially on your personal system compared to your corporate system. So, okay, how do they get the password? Let's address that. Well, I'm going to use Yahoo as an example. In September 2016, Yahoo got the world record of account breach. A breach is when somebody figures out a way to collect the username and passwords of a business, okay, of a database. So Yahoo's usernames and passwords were compromised, 500 million. They had the world record for the most compromised accounts. Now that record was broken a few months later by themselves. Yahoo broke that record with 3 billion compromised accounts. Now at first it was publicized as 1 billion. Later they revealed that it was 3 billion accounts, pretty much all the accounts that Yahoo had. So ask yourself this. If I had a username and a password, nathandessutter@yahoo.com, password ABC1234, and that cyber criminal now has that username and that password, how many other sites am I using that password for? Am I using that password for my corporation, my business? Am I using it for my banking site? You see, once they have that username and that password, they're going to try all kinds of other sites. The first thing they're going to do is try to go to your email, your business email, your personal email. They're going to find links to your financial site, to the places that you do business, and they're going to try to impersonate you, steal your identity, and run charges against you, or even open accounts against you. So the best way to protect yourself in that instance would be to have changed your password, change your username and your password. And this goes across whether we're working at home or whether we're working at work. But what happens is when we're working at home, there's this sense of your guard is dropped. And so it's easier to use a password we shouldn't. Maybe we'll use our corporate password, the ones that the IT department has issued. We'll use that for some kind of personal use, personal site. That is so dangerous. We cannot do that because those sites get compromised, those credentials get taken, and now they're available on the dark web to be purchased. And it's a matter of time before they can then log in and watch your email traffic, impersonate you, and there's many ways they can become lucrative from that. And so we can see how the credentials become so important. Now, if you had a Yahoo, hopefully you don't have a Yahoo account. Since then, by the way, that breach, Yahoo is going to do a deal with Verizon. Verizon was going to buy them for $4.8 billion. Well, when that breach happened, they lost $380 million on that deal. Might seem like chump change. You're talking about $4.8 billion, but still they lost $380 million on that deal with Verizon because of that PR, because of that breach. So it can have a massive effect, and the risk is exponential when all of a sudden you're working at home, your guard is down. You don't have the same mechanisms and reminders around you. And it's so easy to just use the wrong credentials on personal devices and sites and keeping those separate from our corporate credentials. And so the password is so important. And the work from home security is super important because any device that we connect to our corporation becomes like a backdoor. And in many cases, it can circumvent many of the protections that are in place. Let's talk about that. So we're going to talk about the network security, how it's different with your work and your home. Now on the right, what we have is our corporate network. And the image is to depict a layered approach of security. There is no one method of security that solves the problems. And if someone tells you that, they're lying to you. There's no one firewall. There's no one antivirus. There's no one It's a layered approach. You have to have a layered approach. At your home, do we have the same type of layered approach security system? Well, who installed your home router and firewall? Do you know the password to your home firewall? What ports are open? What firmware version are you running on your firewall? Are there known vulnerabilities in your firewall's firmware? Is it still set to default? Who set up the security on your firewall? Well, now, those discussions are helping you to learn how to address all of those as more of a separate webinar. But the focus is your home network as secured as your corporate network? Now, at the corporate office, and again, this is our clients that are connected today, we have an Active Directory. We have a Microsoft controlled domain that controls the user accounts, the access to the network systems, the access to the servers, the files, the computers. All of those credentials are controlled. There's a firewall in place, in which case we have configured the firmware. We watch for vulnerabilities. We've configured all the ports. We have logs and events and notifications and triggers throughout the firewall to watch that traffic and maintain a good, clean traffic. We have a gateway antivirus protection, not just antivirus on the workstation, but antivirus on the firewall. And that's important to designate every one of our clients that has an active subscription to gateway antivirus. For the most part, they're on a Sonic wall and they have AGSS, or Advanced Gateway Security Suite. This is, a firewall is kind of like bars on a window. It blocks ports, right? Unwanted access into your environment. But who's to stop someone from walking right in your front door in an open office environment and rob you, to go in at gunpoint? Well, there's not, because your door's wide open. Your windows may be closed, you're locked, and your window bars may be on, but your front door is open. And so a gateway antivirus is like a security guard standing at the front door monitoring the traffic that goes in. So again, do we have that in our home network environment? What about our antivirus? Is it managed? Do we have the right exclusions? Is it monitoring the right folders? Is it over excluding certain locations? Are we being notified? Are proper notifications taking place for that antivirus? On all of our clients has a managed antivirus software. We're getting notifications. We're getting alerts. Many of you have received a call from one of us or an email because we got a notification and it required action. Do we have that on our home computer? You see, the point is our home systems are not nearly as secured as our work systems. And it's not that your home network is so bad. Many of them, to be candid, many of them are. Yeah, I've seen many, and they're very insecure. But even if you had a secured home network, and I hope you do, I can think of some right now that are on this call looking at the list that I know do have a pretty secured home network. It still doesn't compare with the security that we have at the office. And so because of that, it's why it's so important, and throughout the remaining part of our discussion, we're going to focus on the importance of connecting to your office, connecting to your office system, your office computer, your office servers, and doing your corporate work from there, or doing it from a corporate managed a laptop that's been provided by your company, not on your personal computer. And then we'll give some more clarity into that. But that's the takeaway here, you see, is our security at the office is much higher, and we want to benefit from that. And then when we're remote connecting into our office and using those servers, whether it's remote desktop connection, RDP, Citrix, when we're inside that environment, we're behind all those protection layers. no protection is perfect. Okay, things can get through, and things do get through, and so we have response plans that we can react to it, but it's still significantly better than in our home environment. So the key is to do as much as possible from our work system, and not to bring our work home with us. If we bring our work on a device to our home, we've removed all those elements of security. We want to leave the files, the content, all those digital pieces on a corporate system, whether it's a corporate laptop or the corporate network and servers, and we're remote connecting to it. We want to leave the information on there. And so how does that work? How is that more secure? Well, if I'm on either a personal device or a corporate device, and I'm remote connecting into my office, what's happening is all the information is staying at my office. All I'm doing is having a screen, keyboard, and mouse control on my local computer at home, whether it's a personal computer or corporate computer. See, just the instruction sets and the view is transmitted. No data, no files, no information is actually placed on our home or personal system. And so again, whether it's Citrix remote desktop, or you're maybe connecting to Citrix and then to your desktop at the office, or you're connecting to a remote server, again, you're kind of reaching out and using that equipment. So we talk about data protection, talk about the files and where they reside and what happens when they're on our local system. So this image is a representative of what some of the data risks in our home computer. Unfortunately, many people have this mentality that, well, I'll just get a flash drive, pop it in my work computer, dump some files on there, and take it home. Well, many of times we have worked with clients where that has happened, and that file, that thumb drive, becomes infected on their home. And then when they take it back to the office, they take that infection and plug it right into their computer. Now, that in of itself circumvents several security layers that are built into the network. There's still others that, for the most time, do block them, but some do get through. And we've had some pretty serious situations because someone took some work files, dumped them on a flash drive, took them home, or to a non-managed computer, a computer that Compnology is not managing, and they plugged it in there and gotten infected. On top of that, you've duplicated the file. If you've moved the file, you've taken it off the server. The server has multiple drives. The server has a RAID array to protect the drives. The server has backup. The server has so much more protection than putting the file on an external drive and then taking it home, especially if you move the file. You've now taken all those protection systems away and put it all on its lonesome self. And some people copy the file. Okay, well, I'll just copy it. Well, now you have duplicate copies, and someone goes and works on that file, and you work on this file, and you have duplicate copies, and that is a mess. So taking files home on a flash drive, it constantly creates problems. Another area of concern in our home network is file shares. All too often, which is great, I have it in my own home. We have a whole repository of family photos that we have a share, and it's accessible by family members. That's great. But depending on how that's set up, if you have this open share in your home network, and that home network creates a connection, talk about VPN connection. Some people have in the past. Now, currently, we've tried very hard to make sure that there are no VPN connections from a personal computer to your corporate network. We have VPN connections from a corporate computer to the corporate network, but there should never be a VPN connection from a personal device to the corporate network. What happens is, if that is existing, you open a back door to the corporate environment, where any infections or problems you have on your local system or file shares around that are now exposed directly up to your corporate network. So that becomes a huge concern. And if we're moving our data to our personal computer at home, who's backing that up? Do we trust the backup? Do we trust the security? Do we trust the folder share on who has access to that? I was in a doctor's office some time back, and on my laptop, and I thought I'd have some fun and do some ethical hacking and take a look at the available wireless networks. There was an adjacent doctor's office, and after about 10-15 minutes, I found my way inside that network. There were file shares, folder shares with HR information, financial documents, printers. So I took the liberty to create some files, some warning notification files, placed it right on the desktop of those computers. I even printed a document right off their printer. Well, moments later, I walked into that office because I knew I had created quite a scare, and I let them know, hey, this isn't good. So, and we gave them some suggestions. But the point is, how's our home network when it comes to that? Do we have those same risks? Well, there's a good chance that we do. And again, not that I'm going to talk today about all the ways to secure your home network. That's a different conversation. The point is, the home network can be much less secured. And so how do we treat that data? We don't want to just take data from our corporation and stick it down there in our home. And what's terrible, I see people do this, and it's bad, is they say, well, I'll just email the file to myself. I'll just open up my work email, I'll attach this file, I'll email it to my home computer, and I'll work on it from there. Well, it's the same thing, right? You've taken that data and you place it on your home environment. We've talked about why the risks of the lowered security within that environment. So don't email files to yourself and your personal. Don't move thumb drives away. Just get a good remote access. All of our clients have a good remote connection method. And if you're not aware of it, or if for some reason you think it's not working for you, reach out and talk to the IT team here at Compnology. Perhaps there's some information you're not aware of. Perhaps there's some better methods that you don't know, and that we can help train you and teach you. And we'd love to do that. We want to help you be productive. We want to help you be secured. So we're here to help you. Just let us know. We'll talk to you about the methods, and we'll work through it. We don't want you emailing files and moving files off USB to personal systems. That's going to create a lot more risks for you. So let's talk about that. Now, some people have taken their personal laptops and they've used them as their work tools. And then they take it back to the corporate office. And what they've done is they expose the corporate office to anything that could be on that personal system. I'll give you an example. We had a client, the CEO had visited very trustworthy financial sites at home on a laptop. Well, these sites had been, unfortunately, had some malvertising on the sites that led them to those financial sites. Well, malvertising allows an image to infect a computer. It was really, really nasty for a while. Well, he had become infected with a dormant ransomware, and it sat there on his laptop, and he didn't know it. Didn't go wild. When he came into the office the next morning, 9-something in the morning, that ransomware activated, and it started reaching out to all the shares that he had access to, and it started encrypting all those files. 170,000 files had become encrypted. It took down their ERP system. It took down the financial documents, HR documents, and it all came from the laptop was at home, less protected, became infected, went to the office. So if we bring a device to the office, especially a personal device, that user account has access to all kinds of network resources, but the device is not managed. The device is not managed. The personal device is not managed. You can start to see the risks that get created. So let's talk more about that, the difference between a work computer and a personal computer. As we mentioned at the outset, if you think that cyber criminals are sensitive to this global pandemic, are mistaken. In fact, they're using this as an opportunity to play on the fears of people. And that's why we say that work from home, this big major push, has been a hacker's dream. And so the ideal thing is to have a separate work computer than your personal computer. And for some, they can't do that. They don't have a work computer. They only have a personal computer. And even for some, we've specifically told you you can use a personal computer. But again, in that context, it's because you are remote connecting to the office, right? To use all the office resources from a personal computer. Even so, we see so many times that the computers do not have a password or they don't have a decent password. And that's a big concern. We want to make sure that our personal devices, our personal computers have a password, something to protect them from anybody just jumping on that system and attacking it. We talked about passwords early on, the importance of passwords. Now, I know it's easier said than done to have separate devices for work and personal. Um, and if you can't, if you have a personal device and you're using it to connect to the office, it's so important to create boundaries, carve out some boundaries. Be careful. You don't want to just leave that connection to the office open in a room where other people are coming in. I mean, it's your family and you trust them, but things can still be exposed or accessed or touched that shouldn't be. I know, especially when I had younger ones, they'd come in. The cat can come in, chomp on the keyboard, and we've seen some crazy things happen on remote sessions because of animals. Even so, we don't want to leave an active connection to the office up on our computer. We want to lock the screen. Hit Windows key L, lock the computer when you get up and walk away. This personal computer that becomes this connection to the office, or even your office computer at home, just lock the machine. It protects it from being something seen that shouldn't be, from something being done that shouldn't be done, especially the case if you happen to be in a situation where you have roommates or other people in your home. We don't want to use our personal computer for any other work items except that remote connection, you see. And if we have to use our personal computer, why not have multiple user accounts? Why not make sure that one of the things I see is people have these personal computers and they're just switching between their Citrix webpage or their remote connection and their kid's homework. And their kid will use it for 5 minutes and they'll use it for 5 minutes. Bad idea. Get the kids a Chromebook or get them a low-cost Windows 10 laptop. Or if anything, take your personal computer and create multiple user accounts. Create an account for the kids so they go on there. So if they infect that system, it's a much less risk that when you log in and use that computer, that somehow that infection couldn't be spread out. So multiple user accounts will help tremendously. And so we don't want to put work files or work connections, as far as VPN, on a personal computer. And we don't want to use work computers for personal needs. And so that creates a mindset as well. Sometimes we're remote connected into the work and it's full screen. Well, then we have some personal things to take care of, pay a bill, check a map, a website, whatever it is. Close or minimize that remote session. Get on that local computer and do that work. Don't do personal of any kind on the work system. Keep that on your personal system. And we're going to talk about a couple of things that make a big difference in our work on our personal computer. First one's going to be software vulnerabilities. Now, every software has bugs. Every software has flaws. When they're serious enough and when they're exploited, a hacker can manipulate data and commands, and they can cause a software bug to do the dirty work for them. They can steal credentials, they can steal personal information, personal data. And so the more software you install, the more vulnerabilities you introduce. Now at work, on your corporate system, and we have an agent that sits on those computers, and it is aware of the software and the versions. And we can blacklist and whitelist software that we've known has become a risk or that's become safe. We can see the versions. As an example, Zoom, the very tool we're using right now, not too long ago, it had a security risk. There was an exploit in the program that would allow an attacker to give you a specially formed link, and when you click on it, it could steal the user credentials of that computer. It was nasty, and Zoom got a lot of attention in the news. Well, Zoom fixed it within, I think, 48 hours. Very quickly, they fixed it. They patched it. Did you get the patch? Well, you got an email from me if your corporation uses Zoom, and you probably got a follow-up from Sydney about making sure it's patched. But how do we know that it's patched? Well, our agent looks at all the software versions on all the computers in your corporation. Are we doing that on your personal system? No. What versions of software and vulnerabilities do you have on your home computer? I don't know. But I do know what you have on your corporate computer, and I do know how to protect that one. So again, another reason why we want to use our corporate computers, or if we're using our personal, to remote connect and use our use the corporate computers or servers. This same concept, the line can get blurred now when it comes to emails, and this can be challenging. It's a fact. We have our personal emails that we use all the time. We have our corporate emails. Sometimes we even have multiple email accounts, and we're bouncing around, and we're in our remote connection. We're on our local computer, and we're bouncing around. Sometimes we get lazy, or for other reasons, we decide that we're going to just use our personal email for business use. Well, let's not do that. Not only does it look very unprofessional, you're exposing business transactions to the security of your personal email. Again, does your personal email have the layers of protection and management that the corporation does? It doesn't. And so if we start doing business transactions from personal emails, we've exposed those fellow colleagues, vendors, your customers, exposed them to a higher increase and a higher risk of some kind of attack. And we've seen this before too, where someone has used a personal email address, and then an attacker will copycat that, right? And they'll use a variant or a version that looks very similar, and they'll reach out. And this is especially dangerous if executives or VIPs within your company ever use a personal email for business use. Can your employees trust it? We had that happen with a CEO got, it's called the typo squatting or business email compromise, where they impersonate the CEO, and the CEO's name was there, but it was a personal email address. Well, how does the person in the company know that? Well, in this particular company, this employee was a manager, but it was new. And so they gave trust to this personal email address thinking that it was the CEO, and in fact, it wasn't. It led the person to actually give over a substantial amount of money through gift cards, and it was all theft. And there's no way to get that back because they did it all on their own. It had nothing to do with the corporation. So we have to keep our personal email and our business email separate. We don't want to be emailing each other business matters on personal email accounts. What you lower the guard of your employees, your staff, your colleagues, you lower their guard. Now, do they really know if you get a different personal email account if it's you or not? And it's one thing to impersonate your business email. You've seen that before. They do typo squatting and they slightly do a variant of your domain name. But it's totally easy to impersonate a personal email address. So just don't mix it. And when we're working from home, the challenge is greater. It takes more scrutiny on our part not to mix our personal and our corporate email. And on the same note, if we're using a corporate laptop, we don't want to be accessing our personal email. We had one client had a CSR, customer service rep, and this person had were using the corporate systems. They were on the corporate server, but they were checking their personal email on the corporate server. Well, they opened up an infected email, and it infected the server. It was like a 0-day exploit, and it got right in and spread. We had to shut down a whole bunch of systems and seal that off. It was quite intrusive for the organization. Well, we cleaned it all up, got it all taken care of, put it back online, and within an hour, it happened again. Well, this time was different, and this time we addressed it differently. We had come to find out that it was the person. They went back to check their same personal email. They didn't realize they were the culprit. So just want to emphasize that we don't want to check our personal email on a corporate device. Again, you become a back door to the security systems that are in place in your organization. So again, you can see how working from home presents these challenges, and there's easy ways to mitigate it and work around it. Is use your personal device for your personal email and use your work equipment for your work email, and don't mix them in. Besides the fact that at the end of it all, if you start emailing clients and vendors and colleagues with your personal email, when this whole thing is done, it's going to be really hard to untangle that web that's been created by giving your personal email out to so many people. So let's move, well, and you see I have that piece there, 95% of all successful cyber attacks are caused by human error. You can see now why this is so fitting. And in a work from home environment, the opportunities are increased exponentially because of all these variables that we talked about. And so that human factor, me, we become so crucial to the security of our businesses, of our systems, because we err, we make mistakes. And so we want to be aware of these things that we're covering today. And we're going to talk about some of the common scams and best practices that we're seeing out there. There are quite a few increase in scams that are all about the COVID fear. Medicare, supposed vaccines, stimulus checks, even text message. We've seen hoaxes go through text messages, and somebody used a personal device and they received a text message from someone else who was infected, and this spreads like wildfire. And it says, looks like it's from the IRS. Check your stimulus check, see if you've gotten your relief check. Click here. They click on it. Well, what it does quickly, first thing is it looks at all your contacts, and it takes that same text message and it sends it out to every one of your contacts. Then it goes through, and it's a smart device. It can start looking at the apps on your device, and it can start creating a security risk right here on your device. You can also spread things via your email client. Your device has all kinds of credentials to financial sites. Sometimes we connect to work systems on here. So real quickly, we create a backdoor because of these text messages, and we've seen an increase in the hoax specific about stimulus checks via text message. So kudos to many of you who have shared these things that are happening, and you've sent us nice screenshots, and you've shown how you dialogue back. Hey, are you sure? What are you talking about? Ask them, call them, text them, reach out to them. If it doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. Now, some of these cyber criminals are really, really brave, and they will correspond with you, but you can usually tell either by their familiarity with the language or just the tone of the person. You can tell it's not who you think it is. So don't risk it. Don't risk it. Don't click the link. If in doubt, whether it's a text message or an email or a website, don't click the link. And we're seeing a rise in this business email compromise, where they will impersonate your corporate email account and get people to think that it's a CEO or some kind of VIP. Many of you, we've had these conversations several times, and this is only increasing because the cyber criminals are preying on your fears, and they're preying on this different mindset when you're sitting at home. You don't have the same awareness factors that we do at the office. We start to kind of have a different thinking patterns commonly. And so our guards go down. And so these business email compromises find a lot more success. Don't click it. And a lot of our clients, we've enabled this piece. It's an external sender warning, where it adds like this yellow tag if it comes from a manager or a VIP. If it has a name similar to theirs, many of you are familiar with that. That's helped many of you immediately know that this is not a safe email, or at least to give it a lot more scrutiny. So again, kudos to many of you who have given these emails the scrutiny that they really deserve. And we talked about the business emails. We covered that in depth. So I'm going to have one screenshot that I want to show you. This is a document. And what I want to point out on this document is the link here. Now, this document came in as a PDF. So the person received an email. It said 8x8 proposal on it. They opened the email. It had this PDF file. They opened the PDF file. It looked legit. But when they clicked on the download now button, and what it did is it opened up a web page. Now, this can do all kinds of things. What it commonly do will open a web page where they want you to enter credentials, username and password. They're harvesting usernames and passwords. And what do? You put in a username and password. Oh, that didn't work. I'll try another one. Oh, that didn't work. I'll try another one. And the hacker's sitting on the other side saying, oh, this is great. I'm just sitting here collecting all the usernames and passwords you possibly could use. They're harvesting. So don't do that. If a couple don't work, stop and think and look at the address bar. In this case, what I wanted to point out is when you mouse over the link, and you all can do this right now, incorporate this, whether it's personal, business, you can incorporate this tactic. Mouse over the link, and a lot of times the address of the web page shows right there. You see that link says https://ourgirlfriends.com. That's not 8x8. Okay, I don't know where that is, but don't go there. So we can just use that method, right? And we can do it right now. Hover over it, look at that link, see where it goes. Just use some logic and say, it doesn't look like 8x8. Don't click it. Don't click the link. You can forward it to IT. You can just delete it. Some of these things come in, you can just purge them. We do appreciate being notified. And it's because if we receive it from several people, it might triangulate a need to inform staff or maybe take a deeper look at something. So we have no problem with you reaching out and just checking. Hey, I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure about this. I'll tell you, about 70, 80% of the time, you're correct. It's not safe. You emailed us and say, I don't think this is safe. We're acknowledging that it's not safe. But about 20% of the time, it is safe. So do you want to take that risk? We're here to help. We're happy to double check it for you. And sometimes we even have to go deeper. We even go into the email logs, the firewall logs, and we look at the source of it to validate whether it's legit. And then you can always respond and ask the person, again, correspond with them. So in summary, here's a couple of key reminders, and this is our last piece before we check any questions. Only do work on work computers, whether it's a corporate managed laptop that's been given out, or you're connecting to your business servers or your business computer. Only do your work inside those environments. Do not use corporate email and files and programs on your personal computer. Don't use personal email and programs and files on your work computer. That will become one of your weakest links if you do that. Treat every email like a knock at your door at 2 a.m. And you've heard us preach that many times. That has not changed. And none of this was meant to scare anybody. It was meant to inform you. We want you to be educated. We want you to be empowered. We want to inform you so that you can be a good human firewall, as you see in this picture depicted. We want you to be a good human firewall. We can put all the security mechanisms out there, but it comes down to you. It comes down to me. It comes down to what we click on and to what we actually do with that email or text message or website that we go to. And so we need you. We need you to be a good human firewall. And when we work together, we can help keep your environment secured, and we can keep, even through this whole work from home initiative in this pandemic, we can help you guys stay secured. So we appreciate your time. We're glad that we have quite a few in attendance, so that's fantastic. We thank you so much. And there's a couple of questions that came in. Let me pull those up. Let's see here. Well, the question was, does not work on our iPhone or tablet. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but you can reach out and we can help you with that specific question. Okay. So yeah, in our homes we have a lot of smart speakers. This person's asking if there's a risk with smart speakers. So I'll say that we have smart speakers in our home. They're great. They're awesome. They're a lot of fun. They're in almost every room except the office. Those devices, they're smart. They listen. They listen. If those devices got compromised, if the accounts that those devices are listening to got compromised, and there's been a lot of stories online where stuff like this has happened, then those audio clips of listening to every conversation could be compromised. And if you're on the phone with a financial company, reading off all your social security number, your date of birth, your mother's maiden name, and all, credit card number, and all this stuff, it's recorded. The smart speakers are recording everything. They're listening. So I would never have one of those in my office, maybe in a break room, but I would not have one in my office. If I do, I unplug it. If I have to call the bank, I unplug my smart speaker. I'm not going to be too safe there. I'm going to be careful. So I think they're great devices. They're awesome. but just keep that in mind on where you place them. And this person's asking, is it really necessary to lock my system? Yeah, it's necessary to lock your system. You'll find, and even in many handbooks, policies, it's even in the office, it's a good habit to be in to just lock your computer. Windows key L is my favorite button, right? Because it immediately locks your computer. On a Mac, you can do the Shift Command Q. On a Chromebook, you can select at the bottom and you can sign out. So just sign out or lock the computer. It'll keep that system protected. Well, very good. It looks like that covers our questions for today. So again, we thank you so much for your time and participating. I'll try to communicate this the link to the video so we can share it. And if you have specific questions, don't hesitate to ask. We're here to help. And the Compnology team is really happy to work with you all, and we hope the best as you work through these changed times in working from home. So thank you so much and have a great day.